you so much. So fun to be here. William, thank you.
No problem, no problem.
All right, before we get started, you got to dig the whole outfit. I mean, we've got to go there, right? But this outfit is meaningful. So tell me a little bit about the meaning of what you're wearing and why.
I really wanted to put on like a color on stage where I can, like highlight the room. So I picked this, but then my shirt has hearts on it, represents the Purple Hearts, so kind of tie in with the domestic violence color.
And you've done that before with, I think, a pair of shoes once or twice.
Yeah. Got in trouble for it, but it was worth it. Wore a pair of purple cleats. But it was fun. My teammates, they knew why I did it. My coaches, my owner, they knew why I did it. And I was like, man, you can take my money, but it means a lot more to me to wear these shoes on this particular day.
So you wore them, just to back up just a tiny bit, and then we'll start. I'm going out of order here, but but we had to start there. So you wore these purple shoes on a specific day where you wanted to highlight domestic abuse during Domestic Abuse Month, right? And then it just seems like the oddest thing when I was reading about this that you would get fined for wearing a color of shoes that was so meaningful in your world.
Right.
And you've changed that, the policy, right? Or at least on that day? Or
I got them to pay attention a little bit. So this past year, they let each individual, if you had a cause, you can wear a shoe on a particular week. And I think it was like week 13. So, everybody was like, man, take credit. I was like, nah, I don't want to take credit. But I'm glad, the NFL took that step to let each individual express their cause and something that's dear to their heart on the field.
Yeah, it's small, but it's meaningful,
right.
For sure. Okay, so we'll back up just a tiny bit. Let's go with why now? Why did you decide now is the time to speak out about your experience and why it's meaningful, I guess, to you?
Well, once, when I first got into the league, or even when I got into college, I didn't talk about it. No one knew. Coaches, GMs, teammates, only my close friends and back at home knew. Because I didn't want anybody to sit there and be like, oh, he doesn't have a mother, or he doesn't have parents, or his grandmother's raising him. Let's help him. He needs help. I felt like, no, I want you to treat me like everybody else and let me defend for myself. And then when I prove that I'm worthy, then you can, give me that opportunity, give me a scholarship, or let me get drafted to an NFL team. But that's how I went about things my entire life until I got to the Steelers and met with a lady by the name of Michelle, the community relationship person. And she was like, tell me something, like, where's your mother? And I told her my story. I said, my mother passed away from domestic violence. She was like, oh yeah, we got to put that out there. We got to start talking about it. I was like, whoa, hold up. And she was like, do Mike Tomlin know? And I was like, nah. Do Mr. Rooney know? I was like, no. I was like, please don't tell him. She was like, nah, we got to tell him. And then when they finally heard about it and I finally put my story out about my mom, it was like, oh my God, I didn't know. And then it started being therapeutic to me to put that story out, to find out that I was helping others. And it just, now you can't stop me from talking now. Like I just keep talking and talking and talking about it because for one, it's helping me. And then another, I'm touching at least someone's life. Maybe if their daughter or themselves got up out of a situation, or they know that other people care and people that are in my shoes care.
And can make a difference, for sure.
Correct.
Yep. So can we go back in time a little bit, and can you tell us your story of what happened?
Well, when I was 7, my mother passed away. My little brother, I have 2 brothers. I'm the middle child. And my little brother, she was married to my little brother, father. And, one day, she was just taking us to school, and she was like, I'm gonna drop y'all off to school. We thinking it's an ordinary day. And when we get out of school, she wants to go over to my grandmother's house. And she dropped us off at my grandmother's house, and then she went to her friend's house to just vent, do what, ladies do, get with your girlfriends, you talk. And then, he comes to our house, my brother's father, my stepfather, and he was looking for my mother. And my grandmother told him, no, she's not here. Well, he knew if she's not there, she's at her friend's house. And he went over there to her friend, and I guess she started telling him, like, we done, I'm through with you, I'm leaving, and walked away from him. And he shot her 3 or 5 times in the back. And he didn't know what happened to her right then and there. But he went back to his car and shot himself in the head. And at that moment, we didn't know. My uncles, they came around, picked us up and said, we got to go to the hospital. And this how I knew my mother was strong, because she was still alive after being shot in the back several times. And she just kept fighting. They said, the doctor just said she kept fighting, until she couldn't fight no more. I think she fought for about 5 to 7 hours. And, they pronounced her dead, and that's when I knew, we didn't have a mother anymore. And at that moment, I thought the world was over with, especially for me. Even though I was young, that's all we had. That's all I knew. I knew she was a strong woman, taking care of 3 boys, which is tough. I mean, at that time, my older brother was 15, me 7, and then my little brother 4. So you just can imagine all the madness going on in the house with 3 boys. And she took that responsibility on, and like I said, we lost her, and from that moment on, my life was changed.
Did you ever, before moving forward on your life, going back a little bit, you were 7, so I mean, it's hard to, what would have you noticed that was wrong? But did you see, I remember talking to Denise Brown here last year, and her saying that she didn't see the signs until, and it looked so obvious afterwards, but at the time, did you see signs?
Knowing signs now that I'm older, but back then, you didn't know any signs. I just knew they wasn't fussing, no fights.
No fights at home?
No, my mother ran the household. She didn't play, so there wasn't no arguing. My bedroom was next to hers. So I didn't hear nothing. It was peaceful, just an ordinary family. We watching TV, my brother's playing music. So we didn't see anything. And then all of a sudden, that rage come out of him. I never saw that out of him before.
But some family members had a little bit of warning, some adults.
Right, and when I started doing my research, when I started talking about the story, because I wanted to know more. And my uncles would tell me, yeah, they used to argue and they used to fight. And even one time, my uncle, he was way in Germany in the army. And he was like, I'm about to fly back because I heard he put his hands on my sister. And then that's when my mom was like, no, I got it. Don't worry about it. You stay over there and do what you got to do. I'll take care of what I have to do. And I think at that moment, that's when she realized she was ready to leave.
And she probably felt strong enough to leave, which may have been what?
Yeah, and that's why I say she was a strong woman. Strong individual. Like I said, with 3 kids, so she knew I'm not messing up. I got 3 boys that I got to pay attention to. You're not about to mess up our lives. Let's leave, and then that's it. And that's what she just thought. If I just get away from the situation, I'll be cool. But he thought otherwise.
Right. So what happened to you after?
Man, it was I'd say from about 7 to 12, it was a long road. Like I said, I thought my world was over with. All my friends had mothers. All my friends had fathers. And I'm walking around now, I got to say, I don't have a mother. And I was like, nah, this is it. Like, now I'm about to be against the world. So I used to go to school just to be bad. Like, I didn't listen to no one. Even though my grandmother took me in, I didn't listen to her. I didn't listen to my uncles, aunties, because I felt like, what y'all gonna tell me? I mean, you can't bring my mother back. So if you can't bring my mother back, then I don't want you saying nothing to me. And like I say, for about 7 to about 12, I was just the worst kid ever. I mean, I was bad. Now that I look back on it, I was like, man, why did I even do that? But, you know, I was just outraged. I was upset. And, you know, just taking it out on everybody, taking it out on the world. I was like, you take my mother away, then that means the world don't like me, so I don't like the world no more. And it wasn't until my uncle sat me down and was like, look, he knew I liked football. And I was still playing football, and he was like, if you don't get it together, you're going to be either dead or in jail. And I was like, no, I don't want to be those two.
Those are bad options.
Yeah. And then he threw in the third option. He was like, and you're not going to be able to play football. I said, wait a minute. I said, you mean to tell me if I get in trouble, they're going to take football away from me? You're like, yeah, you ain't playing. No more. Like, you're going to be done. No coach is going to want you. And at that moment, I said, you know what? I'm about to be a good kid. And I turned it around. I did a 180 and became an A student, a teacher's pet. I became, and like anything my grandmother told me, I did it. Because at that moment, I knew she really cared, and she took us in because we almost got separated when it happened, when my mother died. My brother was finna go to Chicago with his godmother. I was about to go an hour outside of Tallahassee in a country town with my godmother, and my little brother was gonna stay with my grandmother. And when she said, no, I want all y'all to grow up together, and all y'all got is each other, and I was like, man, she really cares. So now, I mean, to this day, she can call me right now, hey, I need you to fly from San Francisco to Tallahassee and rake my yard. I'd be like, all right,
You gotta go.
I'll be there. But at that moment, I changed, and I'm glad I took that right turn and knew, like, and then also I used to say, man, if my mother was here, I wouldn't be going to school acting bad, because as soon as I come home, she'd be like, come on, since you want to act bad, come on, we finna tussle right now. Because she didn't play none of that. She was like, if you want to be a man right now, come on, I'm gonna show you how to be a man. And I knew if she was here, it'll be none of that. I'd be a straight arrow A student. So I was like, why not be it now? And that's what I did. I did it for her.
Do you think about part of your decision to go public now and tell your story, do you think about her? Yes, because
it's her story. I'm just the one living and with the platform to tell it. But it's her story. It will help other survivors, because I'm as a kid talking, but she went through it. I mean, I lost a mother, but she had to face that. She had to go through that fight. She went through the arguments. And so with me sitting here telling her story and telling how strong she was and telling that she almost walked away from it and got away from it and tried to take those steps, I'm just telling her story, and it's just helping me become a better man. And to know that what's right, what not to do to a woman, what to do to a woman, and that's to love and care for her and support her. And that it's just showing me how to be a man. So I keep talking and telling her story just to help me develop into a better man than I was yesterday.
That's pretty nice. Yeah. So you work with you've worked with shelters, you've worked with some of these organizations, you're involved with CORA. What do you hope you're accomplishing by reaching out to these different groups?
I mean, for one, to let everybody know that it's a lot of people that care. As a group in here, we're all involved with domestic violence. We all know it's important that we need to erase it. But what we can do, and like my mom, she didn't know about a hotline. She didn't know about an organization. She didn't know about a home that she can go to or get away from to be safe. And with us, just keep doing programs, keep doing luncheons like this to get leaders together. And that way, when we go out into the community, when people don't know or I'm scared to talk about domestic violence because in my culture, it's not my business, we grab those people and we grab another person. We say, walk with me and let me talk to you, or let me show you someone that's been through it. And then that will, in turn, change this whole world. And that's all we need to do. And I think, to me, that's the only thing. I mean, you can remember nothing else, but if we can remember to just grab some people outside of this room here that don't know, that never been through it, that domestic violence never touched their life. Let's grab them and be like, well, let me show you what somebody else been through. Or let me show you, or this person lost their mother, or this person lost their father. Let me show you those instances, and then you will know that this is a world problem and we need to all come together and solve it.
And Melissa was talking about that too. There's some stereotypes that it affects certain communities and not other communities, and this really doesn't have socioeconomic barriers. No. This is something that hits everyone.
Yeah, I think it hits, like you said, like Melissa said earlier, people who have a lot of money and people who don't have a lot of money. Money doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. It's all around this world, and like I said, if we just come together and take it one day at a time, we're not going to solve it today, but we're going to solve it. And we just want that next generation not to even know about domestic violence. And that's our stride, and I think that's our focus, and that's our goal, is to let that next generation not even know about domestic violence.
What about, the obvious conflict, I guess, that comes up or something? You're an NFL player. Right. The NFL has had a lot of terrible incidents regarding this in the last few years, in particular, where stuff has come out. Is there a role that the NFL should be taking? You're taking it personally, mm-hmm. but the NFL, and is it an unfair stereotype that has sort of been placed on a couple of the celebrities involved in it from your perspective?
I think once, as celebrities or as NFL players or NBA or any sports figure, that we have a responsibility. We're in a fishbowl. They tell us that once you enter the league, and things are, soon you do something, you may walk out this door, or I may walk out this door one way, and they be like, oh my God, they go in the blogs that he walked out this way, and then somebody else may walk out the same way, never seen it before.
Right.
And that's the bowl we live in, but that's not an excuse. And I always tell people, and like I said, I only can speak for myself. I am with the NFL, but I can't speak for everybody because it's a world problem. And I just know that how I feel about it. And I just tell people, don't worry about the NFL or being a celebrity or just being on TV. Man, this hurt. This is a life. This is a life we talking about. We ain't talking about no cars. We ain't talking about no money. We ain't talking about what type of house you live in. We talking about somebody leaving this earth when they don't supposed to. Mm-hmm. Not naturally. And I think that's what we should look at. And if we look at that, and I tell teammates that all the time, and they always look at me like, oh wow, boy, you said something then. I'm like, that's all it is. What
is the response from your team, from the owners, for what you're doing?
They, like I say, with me telling my story, they didn't know. So now that I did tell it, it make them second guess some things. Just conversation in the locker room. We have open dialogue in the Steelers locker room, and I always want to open up conversation like, what would you do if? And everybody get a scenario, and then we'll sit down and we talk about what steps will make it either good or better. Mm-hmm. And a lot of guys have input, and we always share it, and we always leave that conversation feeling better than we did when it started. And I think that's all it takes, just information. People just knowing, because like I say, if it hasn't been a part of your life, or you can't tangibly touch somebody and say, oh, I know that happened to them, you're not gonna think about it until it touches you. But if you have that open dialogue, then you'll be like, okay, when I do see it, or if I sense something in my head, then I know how to change it or I know how to overcome it.
Okay, so how about that? How about ways to identify? We were chatting earlier about, there's physical, and Melissa was talking about it, and there's emotional abuse too, and emotional abuse is much harder to identify, at least, you can't physically identify it. What kinds of things should we be looking for? What kinds of things should we be on alert? You weren't aware when you were 7, obviously, but your uncle was, that maybe things weren't going quite right. What to look for?
Never take any conversation for granted. Don't assume no one's playing. Listen to that person. I just think just listening, they will tell you without telling. Anything, like they could be sitting there nervous when someone's screaming. You be like, why you getting nervous? Like, that person is screaming over there. But it might be something going on, and then if you can just be an ear to someone and just show them, you know what? I ain't forcing you to talk to me right now, but just talk to me. No, I'm here. No, I'm not judging you, and I think that's the biggest part. People get scared of being judged. I ain't here to judge. I'm only here to listen. And then if I can't help you, then I can take you to someone, or we can call someone together to get help. And then you'll thank me at the end of the day, because what you're going through is going to destroy you, not physically, but mentally. And the mental part is crazy, because now you'll be sitting there, you never want to come outside, you never want to be around people, and then your life is just in shambles because of what somebody else is doing to you.
And with the mental abuse, there's financial abuse too.
Right, with I make all the money, so I'm gonna hold it over your head. And that just goes on the male perspective, or whoever is doing the assault. I just think that we just need to educate them as well. Don't leave them hanging, trying to save the world, because we gotta go both sides. We gotta go accuser and victim in order to solve the whole problem. Because if we only just stay on the victim side and just keep trying to find help, trying to find solutions, and never address the accuser, then we'll never erase it. So I always talk to men groups.
You do?
Yeah, I do. I talk to men groups, and I have every time I had some juveniles, some teens that, ask crazy questions. And one time it was like, well, what would you do if a girl was hitting you? What would you do? Since you up there talking all political and stuff, what would you do? And I told him, I said, well, I'm gonna tell you about a situation that I was in, and then I'll let you see. I'll let you listen and see what I did. And what I told him, I was in college, and I had a girlfriend who came up. She was on spring break from Tallahassee, so she came up, and we were in school. And at that time, I don't know if anybody play college football in here, but we had what is called mat drills, and you have to get up at 5 a.m. in the morning. And the worst practice ever. You practice for about an hour and a half. I don't know why you do it, but you just get up. But, so she came in, and, she goes to my phone, and I'm like, man, I'm asleep, and I had a dog at the time. And so I thought my dog used the bathroom in the cage, so I kept getting up. And now it's about 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, man, I got to get up at 4. My dog done messed in the cage. I got to clean that up. I'm tired. So I go in there.
Life's a bummer.
So I goes in, and I don't see anything, but I'm so sleepy, but I see 2 people sitting on the couch. And I'm like, no, I'm sleeping, man. I'm going back to bed. Then I said, no, it's some smell. Then I finally take my dog out. I clean the cage up. And I'm like, I see my girlfriend and another lady sitting down. And I'm like, what y'all doing? And then the young lady was saying, no, Will, I straightened everything out. Your girl thought we was talking to each other, but I really was just trying to use your computer. I'm like, wait, what's going on here? Man, get out. First, you get out, and you go to bed. I'm going to deal with you when I get back, because I got this 5 a.m. workout. So fast forward, I get back to the workout. I said, that was very disrespectful. For one, you go behind my back thinking I'm doing something instead of just coming and talking to me. And then you invite somebody else into my house at night. And so I just told her, you know what? We both live in 2 different cities. Let's just end this right now. I'm done with you. Broke up. So I go in the room, and then now she's all hysterical and come beating on me, fighting on me. I'm like, oh my God, like, somebody help. My roommate was in there, and I called out. It was my best friend. I said, Kobe, come help me. And he comes running in, man, don't hit her. I said, well, I am not touching her. I had my hands against her. I said, I'm not touching her. She hit me, and then I got away and called the police. Then it's a female police pull up. I said, oh. So me and my dog are sitting outside, and she was like, put your dog up, and where's the lady? I said, I called you. Put your dog up, and where's the lady? I said, you know what? I get it how I look. I play for Louisville. You go in there and talk to her. So she went in and talked to her, came back out and said, I apologize. I'm finna make her leave. And she got in her car, and I was like, ma'am, I tried to tell you the truth. I the one that called. And then when I told that teen that, and his mouth just dropped, he was like, I said, yeah, you asked me that, and I had a response for it. I said, I've been in that situation, so I can tell you that it's easier to walk away and call the police and let them deal with it. And so that's what I tell everybody every time. So now, even now in the locker room now, when I tell that story, they'd be like, man, what? I said, bro, I did that. You want me to call the girl that it happened? And she will vouch. and I was like, man, it's easy to walk away. So every time you say, bro, man, she was hitting on me, or man, I couldn't do nothing else. No, you can. If you can walk, you can do something else.
Right.
So walk away, call the authorities, and let them handle it.
Well, it's so interesting. You brought up an interesting thing, and we'll wrap this up. But the stereotypes, right? This is a stereotype of male versus female, and Melissa was talking about having the first male into the shelter, and clearly it tends to be many more females are victims. But it's important to recognize that stereotype and be respectful of anyone who's having that concern, regardless of sort of saying, come on, you're a football player, for crying out loud. Really? You had to call the, but it's important to recognize both versions, both stories.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Like I say, definitely. Like, if you can just do that and just, and focus on the assault part.
Right.
And that, like you said, that has no gender on it. That can happen to anyone. That has no, I make this type of money, or I live in this area, or I'm black, I'm white, I'm orange. It has nothing. Just look at, this can happen to anyone, so let's solve that problem.
Right. Okay, so we are going to wrap it up, but any final message? We've got 250 wonderful people here who are wanting to make a difference. What can we do?
Yeah, like I said before, man, if we can just grab a hand or two. I'm real serious about that. I don't have all the answers, but what I can tell you is, if we pull together as a nation, we can get this thing solved. But it's going to take a lot of work, as you know. But we're going to have to inform a lot of people. It's like any other situation that's going on, injustice or any other problems in the world that we're facing. This is just one of many. But we need to show that it's a big problem and that everybody need to focus on it. So if we can just all hold hands and grab two hands, that will make a whole bunch of people right now. Cause it's a lot of people here. I didn't know it was 250 people. But like I said, we just grab hands with others that don't know or that are going through something, and let them know that we're here to help, and we're not afraid or we're not judging. I think we'll be in this fight and we'll win.
Fair enough, and not be a bystander, which is hard sometimes to.
Not at all. I mean, like I said, it's hard. It's hard not to jump in someone's business, but nowadays, man, let's do it until they say no. I'm jumping in your business. I mean, you.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you very, very much. And you've donated. We've got a couple of things coming up right here that you have donated for our raffle and auction and things. So, William, thank you for coming out here. Thank you, and not just here. Thank you for spread. You've got a platform. You do have a voice, and it's wonderful that you're sharing the story.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Wait. But wait,
we have a question.
I get to ask some questions from the audience.
Okay.
I wasn't sure if we had enough time, but we do. So I'm going to try to read them with my eyesight. We'll see how it goes. Okay. So this one is about the NFL. I think we can, this is a different version of the football story question. So what can football fans do to get the NFL as an organization to become leaders in this movement?
Well, I know in Pittsburgh, I got a great owner. I remember I had signed with Arizona for 2 years. And he called me into his office. You know, it's supposed to be a business. I'm leaving his team. He probably don't want nothing to do with me. And he told me to stay involved in the community with domestic violence in Pittsburgh. He was like, man, I know you're going to do something in Arizona, but please stay locally here in Pittsburgh. And that let me know right there that my owner cares about the movement or about what I've been through. Because domestic violence never touched his family. But he knew one of his players, it touched his life, so he wanted to be involved. So he was like, man, whatever you need me to do, I'm with you. So I just think everybody in their community, each owner, just go to them and let them know, voice your opinion. They're listening, trust me. They're listening. They're doing a lot of programs within the communities of the teams. And like I said, it takes more than just the NFL owners. I think, like I said, it takes the community to do a lot of stuff. So fans, community leaders, the owners are just one piece of the puzzle. It's going to take all of us. So I just think as a whole world, whole nation, if we come together, they're listening, they're going to do their part as leaders, and we should do our part as leaders as well.
I think that's a great idea. And if every group fan base, did a campaign, an email campaign to the owners of that particular football organization, football team, I mean, you could, you start to gain some momentum and you start to gain strength from it. And if the NFL made some changes, it would certainly be big strides in making a message out to the rest of the country, I think.
Correct.
Okay, this is an interesting question that we haven't gotten onto yet. Given the statement that emotional and verbal abuse is more negatively impactful than physical, how do you address the internet and social media, which is another way of doing emotional and verbal abuse that's even in some ways sort of more sinister, right? Because it's not in front of you and you can do it anonymously.
Right, that's what I say. I don't have all the answers, but I know
Come on!
No, I don't. But that is scary because even in my line of work, you go out there and you have a bad game or you lose. When we lost to the Patriots, you'll have all type of fans or what we call them internet thugs. And, they will bash your name. They will call you out of name, oh, you need to die, you need to quit. Why did we even drafted you? You suck, this and that and the third. But as we don't know who it is,
right.
But you're getting that verbal abuse over a game. And with you getting that verbal abuse over a real life situation as far as domestic violence, like I said, I don't have all the answers. I just say, well, get off the internet, or I can tell you one thing, the FBI and the police, they can find out who it is. Just go report it to them and they can do some dialogue, some tracking. I be watching TV all the time. So it gotta be some correlation in tracking phone calls and tweets and all that. So I'd say just call the police.
Well, and also what you were saying is sort of learning how to take that. You can take it personally as an NFL player, right? You see that or you can say, with the group support probably of your team of saying, we're not going to let them have that control over us, right? They can vent all they want, and we're not going to listen, or we're stronger than that as a team. And having that team, I'm sure, helps that a lot, right? That you have people to rely on versus just coming after you personally.
Well, I really, you got your team, and then I just, your family gonna tell you you're the greatest thing on earth.
Right. Go back to them.
You just call them, be like, man, boy, you did your thing out the other day. I'm like, man, we just lost. I got beat for 2 touchdowns.
Right.
But you still look good. So you just go back to your family. But yeah, just having that support system,
yeah,
I think truly helps.
Okay, another question here. I imagine it was difficult for you to begin speaking about what you suffered. How did you prepare yourself to speak up?
Man, it was tough. By going to the shelter in Pittsburgh, I heard a lady's story, and she told me she was upstairs and hiding from the husband, and the husband didn't let them out, and the police even came, and he barricaded them, all of them, inside. And he was like, man, ain't nobody leaving this house. And she was like, man, I was scared for my life. I had my kids in there. I was holding my kids, and he pointed a gun at me, and he was like, you know you dying today, right? And all the kids. And when she told me that, I was like, and you sitting here, you talking about it. Mm-hmm. And she was like, they got out. He finally decided to let the kids out, but he said he's not letting her out. And somehow the police did attack it and got inside and got him and saved her. And I'm like, man, if she's sitting up and telling this story, why can't I? Mm-hmm. And I was like, she helped me, and in turn opened me up to start talking about it, because it was tough to talk about it. Because I never wanted nobody to be like sad. And every time I told her, I ain't want nobody, oh my God, it's a tragedy. No, I just wanted to be uplifting and to let people know, that my mother was trying to do the right thing, but didn't know about the different hotlines and different shelters to go to. And so it's encouraging to tell it, because now it's like, man, I know leaders over here, leaders over there, hotlines here, hotlines there, so I can get that information out with telling my mother's story. So it just became easy, but it was hard. But I had to listen to other mothers and other survivors. Mm-hmm.
And you talked about how much you're appreciative of law enforcement and change in laws and what they're doing.
Oh, yeah, especially in Pittsburgh. Now, when someone calls about domestic violence, if they see a mark on someone's going to jail. Mm-hmm. As before, they wouldn't do nothing unless somebody wanted to press charges. But now it's no, oh, never mind, we good. No, somebody going to jail. I see marks on you. Mm-hmm. So somebody going to jail. Or if they don't see marks and it's emotional, verbal abuse, someone has to leave the premises. Mm-hmm. Even if y'all both stay there. And I just think that's awesome. That's a step. And that lets you know that the law enforcement really cares and really are trying to do something to make it correct.
And laws have changed similarly here in California as well. So there's more protection. And I think law enforcement understands it better now too, right? Everybody understands it more than they did. Okay, here's the final question. If you could pass on some advice to a youth who's had a similar experience to yours, what would it be?
Just stay positive. Like I said, I spent those 5 years on being negative, and it almost turned me to the wrong direction. And I just think that sports helped me out a lot. If a team doesn't play sports, that support system of your family, or you can find a mentor, somebody that's really, really caring about you, and hang on to them. Even if they tell you to go home or it's getting late, man, be like, can I stay one more hour? Because it's really important, and that's how I use my coaches throughout my career. I use them as father figures, and any teacher or professor I ran into that really cared about me, I used them as my mother. And any lady that came across that was real strong and real like my mother and really wanted to see me do well, I used to say mom sometimes. I had to catch myself. Oh, okay, wait,
That'd catch them though. Then you call a woman mom and they're in, right? They'll take care of you forever.
But yeah, that's my advice to them, is just stay in the positive lane, and God has a way for you, and God has a better way, and you don't have to be negative towards the world like I did.
And what about even just going out to get help? You're 7 years old. You didn't know to get help, but some kids probably do. Right?
Yeah. Well, nowadays, like you say, with social media, all the things kids get into now, they know a lot more as kids, and they see a lot more. So if they can go and be a big boy, big girl, and go seek that help, I suggest they do. And like I said, with the iPhones now, they can do that.
Yeah. You can get help anonymously too, I suppose. There is that side that would be perhaps helpful. All right. Well, thank you again very much for being here, coming all the way out halfway or entirely across the country to do this. And thank you for sharing your story with us and with so many other people around the country.
No
It's
problem.
very
No
meaningful.
problem.
Thanks.
Thank you. No problem.
Thank you, William. I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and your mom had 7 years, and she did better than I could ever hope for my children. So, thank you to your mom.
You're watching MCTV, Millbrae Community Television.